When scientists placed a camera at a coffin to conduct some research, they are prepared for a fairly uneventful evening. However, what they saw in their monitors left them screaming in shock and disbelief. But before we start, if you enjoy this story, please subscribe and like the video for more amazing stories. And tell us if you think this story is true or not. This story starts with a group of visionary individuals who embarked on a groundbreaking research project. Driven by their insatiable thirst for knowledge, they were determined to unveil the inexplicable phenomena surrounding death, and what goes on in the first 24 hours of being sealed within a coffin after we die. Fueled by an unyielding curiosity, they set forth on an audacious mission to unravel the mysteries concealed within the somber chambers of a sealed coffin. It wasn't easy to find a family willing to lend the team a coffin. Many people backed down when they heard that the scientist would be filming their deceased loved one in the first 24 hours of their eternal slumber, as they thought it would be a terrible invasion of privacy. Others were too religious to allow living people to witness what they thought would reveal itself as a moment of passage between the living world and the underworld. But finally, a family came through and announced that they would be honored for their beloved daughter to be the protagonist of a scientific experiment of such magnitude. In life, Christine had been a scientist herself. Well, not quite. She had unfortunately perished just a few weeks shy of getting her degree in biochemistry. She had been involved in a terrible car accident while she drove to school and was declared dead on the scene. Miraculously, the impact had shattered her spine on the inside, but had no repercussions on the outside of her body save for a few tiny cuts, meaning that she simply looked like she was sleeping. And since she was only 24, and generally regarded as a really pretty girl, the team was allowed to name their experiment, Observing Sleeping Beauty. Her parents knew that Christine, or Chris as everyone called her, would be delighted to know that her body would be used to advance technology and medicine. She had been a firm believer of the scientific method all her life, and since her younger years, she had repeatedly expressed her desire to be part of something bigger. Unfortunately, it looked like she would only be granted her wish in death. But her parents were believers. They were sure that Chris would be looking over her dead body and rejoice at the opportunity she was being given. That is, if her soul had already left her body like they thought. They believed that Chris's spirit had traveled to the underworld immediately after the accident, and therefore Sondo Harriman subjecting her earthly remains to the experiment. So they held a funeral with an open casket, and when the time came to transport the coffin to the cemetery, they made a small detour to the scientific facility where they would carry out the experiment and left their beloved daughter in the care of the team. With utmost diligence and precision, the scientists meticulously prepared their experimental setup, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. Within the confines of the coffin, they placed a couple of state-of-the-art cameras, a marvel of technological innovation. These remarkable devices were endowed with advanced sensors, enabling them to capture even the minutest details. And out of respect for the deceased, the cameras would of course be left in there, and the coffin would never be opened. Equipped with night vision capabilities, these cameras could cut through the absolute darkness, and illuminate the secrets that lay hidden within. Moreover, an enhanced audio system was integrated to capture any sounds that may occur, further enhancing the comprehensive nature of their investigation. The scientists believed that this innovative creation had the potential to shed light on many questions they had for years. The one thing that they were sure to do was not record any of the footage. Christine's family had agreed to allow the cameras in the coffin, but specifically asked that no footage be recorded for the privacy of their beloved girl. The scientists graciously accepted this request and agreed that they would have a team monitoring the cameras at all times, and writing down any observations. This was the most dignified way of doing things. As dusk descended upon their research facility, the scientists eagerly gathered around the array of monitors that displayed the live stream from the cameras placed inside the coffin. Each breath they took was filled with profound anticipation, the weight of their curiosity hanging palpably in the air. They were already 5 hours into the experiment, and not much had happened as of yet. Chris was quiet and still, and they couldn't help but think that the nickname Sleeping Beauty was perfect for her. But the scientists were hopeful and monitored every little thing that they saw. They knew that the possibility of witnessing something truly peculiar was highly unlikely. The biggest changes in a dead body happen between 3 to 5 days after death, when the body starts bloating and the skin begins discoloring. Chris had only passed 2 days earlier, and she still looked like she was just sleeping. Most scientists on the team were sure they wouldn't see anything at all, but a few of them were hoping to find out if something not strictly science-related would happen to her body after being sealed inside the coffin. Would they manage to catch the exact moment her soul left her body, or would they end up demonstrating that no such thing happens to dead people? Despite it being a very slow-paced experiment, the air was filled with a nerve-wracking expectation, and a sense of impatience tinged with trepidation. The hours slipped by as the researchers intently gazed at the unchanging scene upon the monitors. Just as they began to tire, and start to lose a little of their initial anticipation and eagerness for the experiment, a strange faint shimmer on the screen caught their attention. The scientists leaned in hurriedly, their eyes squinting to try to make out what was happening. The shimmer gracefully morphed into a delicate glow, emanating an ethereal or radiance that seemed to fill the camera's lens, as if it was diffusing a very gentle light throughout the coffin. The glow intensified gradually, its ethereal light casting an eerie glow on the body. The scientists exchanged soft murmurs, their voices dipped in reverence and bewilderment, as they pondered the unfolding mystery. Some scientists couldn't peel their eyes from the screen, while others scribbled down page after page of notes. Slowly and before their very eyes, the strange light began encapsulating Chris's entire body from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet. She was bathed in a strange light, almost as if her soul was slowly exiting her body before departing forever for the underworld. The scientists recoiled instinctively, with a few letting out an audible scream of shock. They were initially overwhelmed by astonishment, but soon a growing fear eclipsed their initial excitement. Their collective breaths caught in their throats as the light kept glowing, slowly filling the entire coffin with shimmery particles. Desperate to verify what they were seeing, the scientists hastened to examine the feed from a second backup camera. Their eyes flicked to the second smaller screen that contained the feed of the backup camera. Yet to their perplexing consternation, the second camera showed nothing but the body laying there, as if nothing interesting or exciting was happening at all. This defied all logical explanations. How could the main camera be picking up such a strange and ghostly scene playing out? Yet the backup camera showed nothing out of the ordinary happening within the same coffin. Each and every one of the scientists had a burning desire to better understand what was going on in the coffin. They found themselves unable to tear their eyes away from the transcendent vision unraveling before them. The ethereal glow now seemed to be engulfing the entire room, almost as if the coffin was too small to contain it. Entranced and almost hypnotized, they came to an astonishing realization that they might be witnessing something far more profound and inexplicable than they had ever dared to envisage. Were they witnessing a glimpse into the afterlife? Something that none of them truly held any stock in until that moment. Moments passed and seemed to stretch on for hours, but eventually the light began to slowly dissipate, fading away until only the empty coffin remained, deserted and devoid of life. Now both camber feet showed a completely empty and ordinary coffin, save for the body. Nothing had changed in Chris's appearance. She was still sleeping soundly, her porcelain skin intact, and her body just as still enormous as it had been before the light bath. Had something truly changed? Have they all seen what they had seen? Silence once again enveloped the room, but now possessed an awe-inspiring quality. The scientists were filled not with fear or trepidation anymore, but with a profound kind of astonishment. Had it all been a mere malfunction of the camera apparatus, a mere quirk of the technology that they were relying on? Was it some kind of off-gassing from the body as the decomposition process started, that perhaps the night vision light had picked that up, or maybe it was some other inexplicable cosmic phenomenon? They spent the rest of the evening intently keeping their eyes focused on the screen, hoping for another glimmer of what they just witnessed. Alas, nothing else out of the ordinary happened that night, and the rest of the experiment went exactly as they had expected. There was nothing unusual there to raise eyebrows. The next day, they finally ended the experiment and handed the coffin back over to the family, who buried young Chris. Still, what remained were many questions that the scientist would spend weeks poring over. They reviewed their notes, and each made detailed recountings of what they'd seen, hoping to document their findings as thoroughly as possible. The scientists were forever changed by this amazing encounter. At first, they were shocked and confused by the experience, but soon felt a deep admiration for the vastness of existence. They saw incredible footage with their camera that evening, maybe even proving that there's a profound journey waiting for us after death. But of course none of it was captured, so they couldn't prove to the world what they'd seen. Still, the scientists knew what they had witnessed that night. Could they explain it? No. Would they ever be able to explain it? Probably not. But they knew they had seen something unique and highly unusual. This encounter made the scientists certain of their quest for truth and understanding. It reminded them of how little they really knew in comparison to the universe. Still, despite their lack of evidence, the scientists relayed the tale of their experiment. Consequently, as the story of their extraordinary encounter spread like wildfire, it ignited a debate that set the entire scientific community on fire as they endeavored to explain exactly what had occurred that night. Some tried to explain the phenomenon away with scientific and logical explanations. According to them, the globe and the result of a strange interaction between the faint lights produced by the cameras installed inside the coffin and the gases Chris's body had released during the first phase of decomposition. The coffin had been completely dark inside, and human eyes wouldn't have been able to notice the gases. But the night vision cameras had picked up something in the air, something that under the right conditions of light, the temperature and pressure might have looked like an eerie glow. However, others were more open-minded and willing to accept that it was something beyond their comprehension. According to them, the light that had exited Chris's body had truly been her soul finally leaving the earth. There are some scientists that believe our conscience is not just the product of the interaction between the cells in our brain, but it's something ethereal and impalpable hidden inside our body. And perhaps that was indeed Chris's conscience, now forever free to leave and soar. However, neither party held this scientific soundproof truth in the palm of their hands. Their theories were just conjectures, and couldn't be either proven or disproven. The scientists who believed in the underworld would keep thinking that Chris's soul had departed right before their eyes, while the skeptics would forever be convinced that the light was nothing more than a light. But the intrepid scientists who were there that night, conducting the research, remained forever captivated by the breathtaking scene that had happened in that fateful coffin. Whether it was some kind of specter, or whether there was a logical and rational explanation, they would never truly know. But what they were sure of was that their perpetual yearning for answers was stronger than ever. What do you think about this story? What do you think that it was that the scientists saw in that coffin? Have you ever witnessed something that you can't explain? Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more.